Hello, thank you for watching. In this video, I'll be sharing my process of turning a 2D Webtoon character into a semi-realistic style. This was inspired by Lavender Brown's recent video where she drew herself in a more realistic style than the Webtoons that she typically works in. As you can see, I started out trying to draw basically with shapes without doing line art in the beginning. I know that is the typical manner for doing realism, but it doesn't work super well for me, so I ended up disappointed with this piece. As you will see, I eventually start all over. The model I used as reference up here, her name is Shodo Kredwi. She is an Egyptian, Lebanese, and Greek artist model, which works very well for the character of Pythia, who I'm drawing. Pythia in asterism is the Oracle of Delphi, and she was an Egyptian wanderer who eventually was taken to Athens. As you can see from her original design, it was much more Egypt focused. It had the gold plating, bandages, and certain silhouette choices, as well as the tattoo that I felt were quite Egyptian coded in our modern media. Although of course stylized for the fancy style. Eventually I decided to make it more Greek and also experiment with different color palettes that would be more reminiscent of traditional Greek conceptions of mine, such as the white. I did, however, start on the gray because it was her original design and I felt it fit the more serious atmosphere. I also added the Greek meanders and various floral elements which tie into her identity as the Oracle of Delphi. In addition, this is what she would look like in the modern era. I thought it would just be fun to include that. I did a lot of designs on these and just play around with the characters. I think that there is really cute here. Also, I wanted to apologize for the mic quality. I'm aware that it is absolutely horrible. I do plan to get a better mic in the future. So Pythia as a character was raised in Athens after her wandering group was taken in. It has to do with the post-apocalyptic setting, but I'm not going to give too many spoilers. And then she was eventually chosen to be the new Oracle, the new Pythia, and she had to leave behind her old identity and her family and go out to Delphi all alone with just one companion who, in this particular instance, is me. I'm currently designed as Thalia, the Naiad of the Sacred Spring of Delphi, who, coincidentally enough, I created as a character before I knew that she was a real thing. I knew that there was a Castalian spring, and I had need for a Naiad character. And then I looked it up and it turned out that, yeah, the Castalian spring does in fact have a Naiad associated with it. So I just found that to be really coincidental. And then here you can see in my redo, I did start out with lines, which I always find to be much better, although I did still block out the certain things like shadow shapes. Then I lightened the line art and turned it to multiply setting and started blocking in the shapes of different highlights, blushes, shadows, etc. In order to give my drawing an initial form. I find it's much easier to add out these all together and very solid before you start blending in order to give a clear idea of where you're going to be heading. At this point, I started refining details, smoothing them out and blending them so that she doesn't have too sharp foot planes on her face. I tend to merge the line art layer down so that they stay as guidelines and as things that I can blend into it in order to keep sharp edges. Here I started working on her face, and getting her eyes right was very important to me as they're a significant part of her character design. They're in fact one of the first things I started working on, just doodling in my textbooks and such. I wanted them to be very sharp and angular, but still delicate. The eyeliner as well has evolved over time and eventually ended up at this blue and gold mix. I did ultimately decide not to give her the laurels in her eyes just because of the semi-realism, and also because they're not. Here I started working on the lips, and I wanted them to be very juicy, as Colleen might call it. Here I'm adding some darker shadows in order to enhance the depth and 3D qualities. As well as working on the left eye, which of course, being the second eye, was immensely more difficult than drawing the right one. For the expression, I drew in the iris and pupil, and then carved it out with the bottom lid in order to give that sharpness. Now that we're zoomed out, you might notice that the left eye is significantly lower and non-symmetrical with the right, but I do eventually go back in and fix that. Also, apologies if my voice is hoarse. I am way too nervous to speak in a loud volume, but maybe that'll get better at some point. And then here you can see I'm starting to work more in shapes, carving things out and adding them in with color blocks as opposed to adhering directly to the line art that I started with, which is very important when you're drawing in realism, because if you stick too much to the line art, you're going to end up with a comic style, which is where I started and not where I'm ending up, or aiming to end up anyway. I also struggled quite a bit with her clothing and the angle of her shoulder. You'll see me struggling with that a bit in the future. I just added a little bit of darkness to her face because I felt it was too light compared to her body. The foundation match, you know. Now I'm finally going into the hair. I really liked how the shadows ended up in this one as opposed to the first version. I felt the hair looked much better from the very beginning and got slightly worse as I continued to work on it, but it ended up fine. I did end up putting it behind her shoulder because I wanted to show off her outfit and the kind of clear shape language there. I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm adding in the last couple of details. Little things like the beads and braiding in her hair. And that's it. That's the video finished. You enjoyed watching this, and I apologize for how awkward it can be at times. This is my first foray into this, and I'm trying my best, and hopefully we'll get better with time. Thank you again. Have a nice day. Bye.